Do you notice that just before I said how are you, I paused? I paused because something interesting happened today. We had just gone in to see some clients. We're preparing for some work, and they had given us a brief. On our way, we noticed that the proposal had a different story, which was the same thing that the client had given us a brief for us to, create for them. But whilst we were on our way to the client's office, it dawned on me that, hold on a minute, we had turned it around, and it did not feel as though that was what the client wanted. But I felt, okay, look, I'm going to go see the client and share with the client and tell them, this is the brief you gave us. This is what we've done. We've just seen that it's not what we thought it was. You get it so far? But just before we got to their reception, I just had a brainwave thinking, just leave it and trust this process. Guys, you can't believe this. We went into the meeting, we presented the proposal to them, we showed them a few ideas that we had tossed around. Interestingly enough, one of the directors started smiling. So I'm looking at his face, just his countenance, thinking, man, we must have blown it up. So I looked at my colleague and tapped him, and I said, with a body language, and he looked at me thinking, or saying, just by his look, thinking, I think we screwed this. But there was a little voice in my heart and in my mind saying, just trust this process. He carried on asking me questions and how he can tell that we followed the sequence and how we have done well and how he liked it. Lo and behold, one of the ladies in the meeting turned at me and said to me, how long did it take you guys to prepare this idea? And we go, a couple of days. Okay. And who was the chief architect of this work? Of course, it was yours truly. So I laughed and smiled, and she said, it must be you. And I go, yeah. She looked away and looked back to us and go, guys, I think you guys have done well. We like it. When we were coming back into the office, I asked myself, why were you afraid? Why were you concerned? Why were you so perturbed? And the answer that came at the time, fear was trying to hijack something that we had taken days and weeks to build. And I recall what one of my business mentors shared with me. I remember this vividly. 20 years ago, I was sharing with him how fearful I was. And he said, no, you can't allow fear to hold you down. You got to rise above it. The client gave us the go-ahead. The checks are signed, and I am happy. But what I wanted to share with you is how sometimes we can allow fear to rob us of the possibilities that we can see for ourselves. Fear. It comes in from nowhere, and all of a sudden you begin doubting yourself. Fear. Fear comes in sometimes without even knocking the door. The interesting thing is, how rude is it to just enter into the room of your thought, the living room of your thinking, and think it can scare you out of your possibilities? I rose above it. And this is what I want to say to you. Instead of saying, I am afraid, and you claiming fear, why don't you say fear is going through me? Instead of saying, I am afraid, you can say, or I want to share with you or submit to you. Instead of saying, I am afraid, you can say, fear is going through me. Why do I say this? Fear doesn't come to stay. It doesn't. Fear knows that it is not welcome. That's one. Two, fear knows that until you give it permission, it has no residence. So two things we have to do, you and I. We have to not give fear any permission for it to sit and be comfortable in our thoughts. We have to know it knows that it is not welcome. And lastly, what we say to ourselves when we are experiencing fear is cardinal, supremely important. Instead of saying, I am afraid, I say to myself, fear is going through me. When I say I am not afraid, I am not acknowledging what is happening. And that is a denial. And I don't think it's fair on us. When we are afraid, we have to accept that we are afraid. We have to see it as it is. However, we don't have to accept it. You get it? So we can acknowledge it as humans, but we can't accept residence or its residence in our lives. That is why I introduce, or I say to you, I say to myself, and I suggest you say to yourself too, I am not afraid, but fear is going through me. Because it passes. It's an emotion. I leave you with this note. Fear has to go through you. It doesn't need, or you don't have to give it permission. Have yourself a lovely day. And I wish you a fantastic day. Take care. Bye for now.